Catherine, I just want to check you can hear us and see us.
Yeah, I can hear you and see you. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's a good day.
Perfect.
Come to order, please, at 10:05. A little bit late, just getting some technical issues resolved. Item number 2 on your agenda today is the land acknowledgement. And as we gather this morning, we acknowledge on behalf of the Township of Whitewater Region and our community that we were meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Item number 3 on the agenda is the disclosure of interest. So I'm going to ask if any council member present has any interest of a pecuniary nature. Yes, Councillor Olmsted.
Yes, Chair, I have a interest in, just finding it here, item 4.6.
Thank you.
And can you disclose the nature of your?
Yeah, I'm owner of the property, and I'll remove myself and put myself in the audience.
Thank you very much, Councillor Olmsted. Now, item number 4 is our public meetings, and I would ask if there is any objection that we change the order, because we have guests in the gallery and online today that are interested in item 4.8. And so if there are no objections, we will do the presentation for 4.8 first, and then resume the natural order of our agenda. Any objections? Hearing none, we'll proceed. And I'll ask our CAO, who is acting as the planner today, to make the presentation for application 4.8, please.
Sorry, Councillor Chair, you need a motion.
Okay. All of that, and I forgot. I'm going to need a mover and seconder to it's just a mover for. You need to read it first.
Yes, please.
That's what I was going to do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, we're back. Okay, just a second here. Okay, there is a recommendation before us, and I'm going to read the recommendation as a motion. That the Committee of Adjustment for Township Whitewater Region approve the consent applications file numbers D-10-267, 268, 269, 270, 271, 272, and 273 for the property described as Ross Concession 12, part of Lot 13, Voyageur Bay Trail, subject to the conditions outlined in this report. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert. And now, could we have the recommendation, please?
Yeah, thanks so much. So I'll just kind of go through the report with the members of the committee. What you have before you on the screen is a sketch of the subject lands. Firstly, the general location of the severance applications is along Voyageur Bay Trail, which is accessed from Pettigrew Road, from Dip Burner Road back to Grant Settlement Road. The subject lands have been subject to numerous severance applications in the past, and you'll see on the second sketch here that to the south of the road, the road is in yellow. There are several applications that were filed previously, dating back a number of years, and the properties in red are shown as lots 1 to 7, and then at the cul-de-sac, I'm not sure you see my pointer, you do, there's the retained lands there. So the purpose of the application is to sever seven 7 residential lots, and the retention of 1 lot. The properties vary in size between 0.4 hectares to 1.5 hectares, and that is sort of depending on the topography of the subject lands. Properties are all vacant. They have varied topography, some rocky outcropping, and generally the slope is towards the Ottawa River. They are covered by woodlands, short and except some previously cleared areas. Retained land, that small 0.4 hectare property, again, similar topography and sloping of it. These applications are not the first time they come to our township. Back in 2000 and believe it was 2002-ish. There was an application for an official plan amendment, and I'll speak to that very shortly, but that official plan amendment at the county level, which was approved, ultimately allowed for the creation of these additional lots. So altogether, I mean, we're certainly in excess of the 3, in excess of the 5. And in order to respond to sort of councils, or not councils, the county's view of the policies or interpretation of the county official plan policies, an official plan amendment was filed to allow for these additional lots. So I'll just skim through the report, if you will. So the property is is located in the rural areas of the provincial policy statement. Provincial policy statement speaks about building upon rural character and leveraging rural amenities and assets. So here, this property is fully bounded by the Ottawa River, and we need to recognize the importance of the Ottawa River for our community and how we could support development around that natural asset. In the county official plan, as I've noted, there was an amendment made. So the property is in a waterfront exception 5 zone, a designation rather. So the waterfront designation allows for limited recreational tourism, resorts, and residential development. And that exception 5 allows for the 8 new waterfront residential lots plus 1 retained. In this case, what's applied for is 7 plus 1. I'll skim through the different sections just to speak about the analysis that were conducted to support the applications. These have been filed with the township, reviewed, and approved. So around cultural heritage and archaeological resources, these are provisions from our official plan that dictate sort of requirements when considering development proposals. The first one around archaeological assessments, the assessment was done in 2002 and submitted to the ministry, and it concluded that no further archaeological assessments is required. So that assessment was required and conducted, and this list of requirements was established as part of that official plan amendment as well. Secondly, the natural heritage features, valley lands, woodlands, wildlife habitat. So that necessitated an environmental impact assessment, again concluded and found that the approval of the 8 lots would have minimal overall ecological impacts on the natural features of the subject lands. Thirdly, natural hazards, so the wildland fire hazard. So again, the proponent submitted the necessary form to support the development proposal with respect to wildland fire hazards. Noted here, floodplain. Again, this is a section of the Ottawa River that has a very, very minimal flooding as a result of the OPG dam and the OPG waterfront properties. Infrastructure planning, a couple things here. So private road. So the property is bound by the private road, the property's front on the private road known as Voyageur Bay Trail. All of the lots in this case have registered on title a development/private road agreement. The private road agreement speaks to the road standard to which the road needs to be constructed. It speaks about the obligations of the owners to ensure that it's not encumbered for access by emergency services. And it also speaks to the township's, for lack of a better term, unwillingness to take over the road, short and accept council consideration separately. This Voyageur Bay Trail is bound to Pettigrew Road, which is a seasonally maintained road. Together, the township and the owner have the applicant owner in this case have an agreement in place with respect to the maintenance of the Pettigrew Road through the winter. So that's a separate agreement, but again connected to this private road system. The electrical servicing, this is an item that was discussed when we discussed the purple lot on the property, on the sketch in front of you, this purple lot that was severed a couple months ago. The discussion around electrical servicing was discussed at that point in time. Ultimately, we've engaged with the owner's consultant and the owner, and we've come to terms to say that what would be required as part of a building permit process would be to ensure that a qualified electrical professional submits to the township the necessary sort of documents to support off-grid electrical servicing report, and attaches an appendix to the report, Appendix B here, or Schedule A rather. There's a bit of a servicing report that we would require at the time of the building permit. So we're not requiring this to approve the severances. What will happen is this requirement will form part of the development agreement. It'll be registered on the title of the property. Within that development agreement, it'll necessitate future purchasers to submit this level of detail for their off-grid housing units. And also within the agreement, we could establish that as part of a purchase and sale agreement, that the purchasers are informed of this requirement among others. So that's how we've sort of come to a solution in response to this off-grid servicing matter, and staff are supportive of this approach. So I've spoke about the land division policy, speaking about just reiterating to the members of the committee how the policies read. You're allowed 3 severances from the original holding from 1971. It does allow for you to exceed the 3 to get to 5 and more than 5. So long as it's determined that a plan of subdivision is not required for orderly development. Our council, I think the previous councils and our present council had reviewed this in 2002 prior to the 2022 election. And at that point in time, the previous council did support the continued development of these 8 lots by severance process. So there was a resolution from our council in 2022, I believe, 2021, 2022, to support what you have in front of you now as the Committee of Adjustment. I'm going to move right to the conditions. I'll note that staff are supportive of the present applications, subject to all of these conditions, and I'll skim through them. So the first one, and the committee will be familiar with these first few, that 2 hard copies and 1 digital copy of the survey be submitted to the township for approval. Secondly, that second condition, that 1 digital copy be submitted to the county secretary treasurer of the land division. Number 3, that the owner enters into a development private road agreement with the municipality for the severed and retained lands to implement a few things. One is the findings from the reports. So archaeological assessment, wildland fire hazard, hydrogeological assessment, grading plan, road agreement, environmental impact study. So all of these studies ultimately recommend certain mitigation measures. In the case of environmental, the recommendations of these studies and the identification of these studies will be shown, be included in the development private road agreement. B, the requirements relating to the private road, and these are standard requirements. They've existed for the number of years. The requirements relating to electrical servicing with respect to building permit issuance, and then finally that these agreements be registered against the lands to which they apply. So by registering registering the agreements on the properties, those agreements stay with the property unless the township, which is a party of the agreement, chooses to cancel the agreements, which is not going to be the case. 4, that the owner of the subject land shall pay all outstanding taxes, past due dates if applicable prior to the issuance of certificate of consent. So I think this is a reoccurring condition that we've included more recently. 5th, that the applicant obtain approval of a zoning bylaw amendment. So the property is presently in what we call a holding zone, has a holding symbol. So the applicant will be required to file a zoning amendment to remove that holding to ultimately allow for the development to proceed. And 6, that the applicant submit the transfer deed of land to convey this said land. So to close out the presentation, the one comment we received that is not included in the engagement consultation was from Ontario Power Generation, OPG. We will circulate the comments back to the applicant, which we have not yet, but they do not affect the configuration, the proposed development. So they just reiterating that, reiterating the information that the owner knows, which I've discussed with him before, that OPG owns lands along the water's edge, and that they want everybody to recognize that, but it will not affect the configuration or the development approvals of the land. So just noting that one piece of consultation. Otherwise, the staff are supportive of the application, subject to those conditions. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for that presentation, CAO Ivan. I would now invite the applicant to comment. For our video audience, could you please state your name?
My name is Brian Whitewater. I'm planner with JPTP Consultants. I just have a few comments. That was a very good presentation from you. First, I'd like to introduce colleagues I got on virtual. Catherine Curry, who's actually the applicant. Who is the engineer that did the drainage plan as well as the and Kevin Motor who did the average village. So if there's any questions related to those matters, from the committee, as Ivan mentioned, OPA 39 applications possible. To the policies of the county. So that is 8 lots to be created with 7 lots here. And the 8 that's the one that we like March. Principal on these investments that have been done have considered the same matters that would have been hard to be considered at the time of subdivision, and including archaeology, environmental from what I report and finding. We've got a chance to review the conditions of consent which apply to the lots. Judgments that the development agreements will be that's my brief presentation.
At this point, are there any questions from council of Mr. Whitehead? No? Okay.
I only have 2 copies. So if you can share.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, members of the staff, I want to first start by thanking you that this item is on the agenda on May 22nd. I know this was a horrific ask for the township. This was a lot of work. It's a complicated application. I know the original plan was for June, but the fact that it's May 22nd and with the appeal period gives myself as the developer the opportunity to, if this is approved, to go forth and sell lots and to do everything that's required to make this one of the best and brightest developments in Whitewater region. I should caution council that this is just the one of the many steps in my grand vision of the Ottawa Valley in Whitewater region. I'm cursed with an overactive imagination. I have children that all, and their spouses that all work in the organization, that all share the same ideals and beliefs and goals and aspirations that I do. So this is, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. I'm very confident that with the next generation, that could well go to the 100th. But anyway, one of the big part of this application is electricity, hydro. And I want to just inform everybody that it has been my intention all along to provide hydroelectric services and fiber at the same time to the residents of Voyageur Bay. So you can see by the little, that was sort of the application and the Hydro One planning report for the thing. So I have been working on it. The challenge up until now, and so I am, before I was cautiously optimistic, I'm now very optimistic that if this passes, everything, and council knows this, is always a function of money. Your roads can be better if you have enough money. The services that you provide will be better if you have enough money. It's the same thing with Voyageur Bay. What I needed to reach was critical mass, because bringing hydro to Voyageur Bay is not an easy task. It's not for the faint of heart. It's bringing power from our old location at 503 Rafting Road through submarine cable to Voyageur Bay. And so it's probably be the only submarine cable in this municipality. I'm not sure if there's any others, but anyway, it's a, so yesterday we had a conference call online with myself, Sam and Megan McRae, who are helping me with this project. They're also residents of Voyageur Bay. And so we met with 5 or 6 of the members of Hydro One's subdivision committee to start fast tracking this application. So I'm well aware of the importance of it, and are working very stringently to get it. So that's really probably the single biggest issue with this. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Kowalski. Are there any comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Tabbert.
Through you to Mr. Kowalski, do you have a timeline for the submarine cable, or is it just a vision that you would like to see happen?
Oh, well, the only difficult part of the timeline is government. So after my meeting with Hydro One yesterday, I'm very fortunate, or we're very fortunate that the ADM for MNR, which because we're going across the Ottawa River and going across MNR lands, the ADM happens to be a young man from Varys Bay who's been in that position for a long time and very supportive of everything Renfrew County. So I'm working him to, right now, if we had the approvals now, we would start the project tomorrow. It's all just in the approval process, because we have to have the approval because it's Crown land that we're crossing in the middle of the Ottawa River.
Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. And maybe not necessarily directly to Joe, but to the CAO, but I noticed that there's one comment on this thing about the road. Is there any complications with a private road, putting that easement in for that overhead line? Is that anything that we need to concern ourselves with? in the planning part. Like if they want to put hydro line poles on a private road, is there any complications we can kind of anticipate at this point in time?
I would only note that the private road is privately held. The utility, the poles, as I understand it, would remain privately held by the road, the benefiting road, like the people that are registered on the road. But it shouldn't affect the purpose, for the purposes of access, which is what we're mostly concerned with. And yeah, so it should.
There won't be any, sorry, there won't be any requirement for them to come back to us. As within the private road agreement, it allows for this to occur.
So long as it doesn't encumber the access, we'd be fine. Yes, sir. Good.
Second thing I'll note is that we actually do have a submarine hydro line. It's in Hennessy Bay. So Ed Desjardins has run it. It has occurred, but it's good and it works well.
Yes, I was going to make that comment too, that this isn't the first submarine hydro facility, and also we are quite clear, Mr. Kowalski, that providing hydro to this development is not a condition today for approval. We understand that. We also are pleased to see, I am pleased to see the addendum, the appendix that lays out how safe, reliable hydropower will be available off-grid. I'm very pleased with that. Also, it is comforting to me that it is your intent to provide AC hydro to the people in this development as soon as it is economically and regulatorily feasible. So that is very comforting to me. And I know that you are known as in this community as a man of your word. If that's your intention, then there will be a time when we'll see that happen. So thank you very much for your presentation. And I would ask if there's anyone else in the gallery or online that would like to make any further comments. Here, yes, back to His Worship Mayor Nicholson.
Thanks. If it's appropriate at this point in time, I have a question for staff on the report. Is that all,
Oh,
is that all right?
very good. Continue, please.
Okay. I just want to confirm the condition that talks about removing the holding symbol. Can you just provide an understanding of what that is? That's coming back to Committee of Adjustment to remove the holding symbol. What's the and the trigger to execute that removal?
I don't have the provisions directly in front of me. However, the holding symbol is typically put in place to restrict development until certain conditions are met, some of which may be these environmental assessments and other assessments. So I would say, without looking at the provision directly, the removal of the holding, we are satisfied with the removal of the holding at this point in time because the assessments have been done. Subject to the approval today, the consents will be approved and the development could proceed.
Sorry, and it's just me understanding the process, but is there anything stopping us from removing the holding symbol today? Or that has to be done?
It has to be done
subsequent
subject to an
afterwards?
application and through council.
Oh,
It
okay,
is not a
committee of
public
adjustment.
process.
Okay.
It's not a formal public process, but it is a council decision. It's a
Perfect.
bylaw.
And that's the last requirement for this file at a council level.
Yes, because the development agreement, we have delegated authority if it's a condition of consent to execute through our delegation of authority in the bylaw. Yes.
Perfect. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. To Ivan, as part of the engagement consultation process, you mentioned that we did receive a letter from OPG, and it's not going to affect the current application. is that a normal process? Do we have to engage OPG for any lots along the Ottawa River, or is it only because of the potential of adding hydro one or hydro to the lots later on?
I think the Planning Act, which is the provincial legislation, establishes through the Planning Act or associated regulations who we must or shall circulate all of the applications to. So we don't have, it would be, our common practice is that we would circulate to the agent, like to the same agencies for every single application. Whether OPG is next door or not, whether there's an environmental constraint or not, we just circulate everybody, MTO and the like, and they provide feedback. Some provide feedback, some never provide feedback.
Sure. If I may.
Yes, continue, sure.
So if a landowner was severing one lot off his property that fronts on the Ottawa River, Hydro One would be in consultation with that as well, whether they reply.
The prescribed list would be circulated, yes, 1 lot or 10 lots. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other comments from council? Hearing none. Mr. Kowalski, again.
Yes, just to address OPG. So above and below the Chinook Dam, OPG owns all the land along the shoreline, both above and below. And so even at our old address, which is now owned by Summerhill, the very nice beach, all the land is all owned by OPG. And what happens is that the same thing happens on the Madawaska and any other river that there's a hydroelectric station. And so what OPG does is that it grants a recreational license to private landowners to cross and recross their property. They do not provide approval of anything that would require a building permit. And in the case of commercial landowners, they require a commercial lease.
Thank you very much for that information. So finally, any other comments before I call this matter to a vote? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify. The record will show that the vote was in favor unanimously. And so I would thank the people online and people in the gallery and invite you to leave if you wish. Thank you.
I think he might be here for another application as well.
Here.
So I go to
Okay.
Carmen's for the minutes. I can.
It's a work in progress. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're back in order and we will resume the meeting and follow the agenda as was printed. And so we will be now dealing with the application numbered 4.1, and it's a minor variance application. And there is a recommendation before us, which will be read as a motion. And that is that the Committee of Adjustment approve a minor variance application for the property described as Ross Concession 2, part of Lot 19288 Ashbury Trail, granting relief from sections 3.1E and sections 3.32B4 of the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 24-01-16552. Number 1, increase the permitted height of an accessory building to 9.5 meters. And number 2, reduce the minimum setback distance between a structure and land zoned the mineral aggregate reserve, sand and gravel, EMR-SG to 80 meters to allow for the construction of a detached garage. A mover, please. Been moved by Councillor Olmsted, and I would ask CEO Burton to give us the rationale for that recommendation.
Great, thanks so much. And I will do a cursory review of the report because we do have a pretty big agenda, so I'll kind of go through it relatively quickly, but I'm open to any questions or comments. So the property in question is 288 Ashbury Trail. We have before us on the screen the location of the subject land in yellow. Ashbury Trail is connected to, I believe that is Sarah Priscilla. That's a municipal road, municipally maintained road, and Ashbury Trail connects off of that. Near the Olmsted, it fronts on Olmsted Jeffrey Lake, and Ashbury Trail continues past Gilcrest Way, which is also another private road. The application in question is seeking variances for two sections, one of which is the mineral aggregate reserve sand and gravel. Essentially what that means is, and I'll show it on the screen here, is the official plan and our zoning bylaw identifies aggregate resources along the entire west side of Olmsted Jeffrey Lake, and my cursor is kind of circling through the area here. So what's been sort of presented to us from the province of Ontario, likely through the Ministry of Natural Resources and Ministry of Natural Resources, are deposits of sand and gravel for potential extraction. So they're in this reserve zone and reserve designation in the county OP. So there's this large deposit of aggregate along the entire west side of Olmsted Jeffrey Lake, and it continues north towards Cobden. There's these large deposits of sand and gravel. They're not active pits in this case. They're not actively being extracted, but the province has identified them to try to protect them for the future extraction. So these are what we call non-renewable resources. Renewable resource would be electricity through the sun, but this is non-renewable. So they're trying to protect it similarly as they would protect agricultural lands. In the present case, we're not looking to develop a new lot. We're not looking to develop a new home, which could impact the setbacks from a future pit. But what we're seeking to do is build an accessory structure, accessory to an existing home. And there's a series of homes here on the subject property, which ultimately will have very, very minimal impact to any future extraction of the aggregate. And that's ultimately what the report says, that we're supportive of it. The impact is extremely, extremely minimal and should not have any impact to the future extraction of aggregate there. The second item speaks to the detached garage height. So the proposal is to increase the height from 5 meters to 9.5 meters. 5 meters is the maximum height set for residential accessory structures, sheds, garages, gazebos. In an aggregate, or not aggregate, in an agricultural setting, that 5 meters is actually greater. You could actually build a larger shed in the agricultural zone. The proponent is seeking to increase the height because he's looking to store personal items, including pontoon boats. So there's no intent to have habitation in this structure, which is extremely important. There's no residence proposed in the structure. So staff are supportive of it. We have the analysis here, 4 different sections. The analysis for variances is based on 4 tests, as they call them. General intent of the official plan is maintained. It supports limited residential development. It's in keeping with the official plan. Secondly, the intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The location of the structure does not interfere with adjacent uses and will comply with other sections of the zoning bylaw, including minimum setbacks from the water and the property lines. The variance is minor. It is limited in scope and does not result in an adverse impact of adjacent properties and should not affect the function or character of surrounding areas. And number 4, the variance is desirable for appropriate development. and use of land. Again, the garage will support the residential use of the property, which is in keeping with all of our planning documents. So staff are supportive of the application, and we'd look for concurrence from the members of the committee. If I could ask, if I could ask our clerk, if you could just message our manager of public works to try to reduce the noise in the background. Thanks.
I was thinking of just shutting the boardroom door.
Back to you, Chair, if there's any questions.
Okay, first of all, I'll ask, I believe we still have Catherine Curry from JP2G with us online. And I'm wondering, Catherine, can you, do you have anything to comment on about this application?
Thank you, Chair. No, I'm here for item 4.7. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I wasn't aware, but that we will be sure to get back to you, but still, anybody in the gallery, including you, can make a comment. All right, then the council, any comments, questions, concerns about this application? The only thing, and you did address it, Mr. Burton, and that is that there's no intent with this application to have a part of this building be used for accommodation of any kind. I take a look at the drawing and I notice that if the drawing is representative of what they want to do, the door height is a normal garage door height. And so, you know, obviously a pontoon boat could get in there, but there seems to be a lot of extra room above. And I'm just want to make sure that the applicant understands that this in the future can't be converted somehow to to dwelling space. That's all. That'd be my only concern. Yes, it seems that the height of the building is not reflected in the height of the garage door. You know what I mean? It's a normal garage door. So it's just a concern, and I'm sure that that'll be taken care of. That's my only comment.
Yeah, the only thing we would do is what we commonly do, where there's we want to make it clear that no human habitation is permitted on the permit site plan. We would specifically asterisk that no human habitation is permitted, and then that way, if ever there's habitation, then we have record to say that we've reconfirmed that there's no habitation. But we'll do that. That's great.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other comments, then I'd call for the vote. All those in favor of this application? And it is also carried unanimously. Item 4.2. Now, in this item, the maps do not correspond with the application, but a CAO will put the correct ones up online for us when we get to that. And so, if I will read this application as a motion also, and that is the Committee of Adjustment approve a minor variance application for the described properties as Ross Concession 8, north part of Lot 1291 Fletcher Road, granting relief from Section 3.1E of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw to increase the permitted height of an accessory building to 5.5 meters to allow for the construction of a detached garage. A mover. Moved by Councillor Tabbert. And again, the rationale, please, Mr. Burton.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'll just bring up the said sketch of the subject lines. What we have before us is another minor variance for the purposes of increasing a detached accessory structure's height from 5 to 5.5 meters. The property in question is more or less 29.5 acres in size. Frontage of 198 meters and a depth of 618. It does contain a hunt cabin on it, or a single detached dwelling. It fronts on a municipal road, Fletcher Road, and would ultimately allow for a permanent residence. In this case, it's a hunt cabin presently. This is the property here. shown as Fletcher Road at the intersection of Pleasant Valley Road. This is that sort of hunt cabin building here. I'm going to skip right into the for test. So the application generally meets the intent of the official plan. Property is in the rural designation and supports residential uses and accessory buildings that's compatible with rural character of the area. 2, meets the intent of the zoning bylaw. Proposed garage complies with all other provisions of the bylaw, short except the height. And will be outside of any environmental protection area, which is that sort of wet area. I mean, maybe a bit more than wet area, this water course in the back. Thirdly, the variance is minor. The deviation is quite modest and will not adversely affect the neighboring properties. And fourthly, it's desirable for appropriate development. Accessory structures support the continued residential use of the property of the hunt camp. So staff are supportive, and I'll answer any questions that there may be. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Anyone in the gallery have any comments? Hearing none. Council, any comments about this application? Hearing none. All those in favor? Approved unanimously. Thank you. Item 4.3 is another application for a minor variance, and the recommendation will be a motion that the Committee of Adjustment approve a minor variance application for the property described as Westmeath Concession 2 west of Muskrat Lake, part of Lot 179 Crystal Trail, granting relief from Section 3.33F of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 24-1-1655 to reduce the minimum water setback of 15 meters to allow for the construction of an addition to an existing dwelling. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Olmsted and Mr. Burton.
Yeah, thanks so much. So again, what we have before us is a minor variance application. In this case, 179 Crystal Trail. Crystal Trail is a private road, hence the term trail. Crystal Trail is located north of the village of Cobden and connects to Highway 17. Property in question is bordered by residential lots to the north and south. The property in question, I believe, is right here. The Muskrat Lake to the east, and agricultural uses to the west. The application here is the proponent seeking to build an addition to the existing home at the subject lands. The sketch shows that the proposed addition would be 22 feet by 35 feet and would be attached to the south side of the building. So this is the building here, to the south side addition, and presently the front of the home is at 15 meters, and the proposal is that they would continue that straight line this way for the addition. So they're not reducing the water setback, they're maintaining the 15 meters for this proposed addition. So staff are supportive of the application, and this is based on the fact that it is our view that the application meets the test of a variance. The proposed addition aligns with the official plan by maintaining the existing setback, avoiding any new disturbances, and allows for that low density residential use. So again, there'll be no further impact to the water setback. The land between the proposed building and the water will remain in its natural state or existing state, likely being just grass with some minor treed vegetation. The general intent of the zoning bylaw is to protect the water quality, and that is the reason why we established a 30-meter setback. In the present case, again, we're not further decreasing the minimum setback to the water's edge, so there'll be some minimal shoreline disturbances, and there's no further encroachment to that the existing water setback. The variance is minor. The expansion of the footprint of the existing cottage, again, the degree of relief is quite limited in scope and impact, so it allow for the desired development to proceed, and essentially respecting a 15-meter setback, which is consistent with the subject property and to some degree the adjacent lands as well. And the application is desirable for appropriate development. It supports the continued seasonal residential use of the property, provides functional improvements without changing the nature of the use. So again, staff are supportive of the application and glad to answer any questions that there may be. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Again, I'll ask public comments. None. Then I would ask for council to comment. And yes, Mr. Nicholson.
Thanks, Chair. I know that the analysis has been done to deal with the setback from the shoreline in order to protect the shoreline. How do we consider a nitrate from the additional expansion? I'm assuming more people can use this facility. Is there an impact on their septic system? Do we have a threat of nitrates, additional nitrates making their way to the lake?
So the question of septic was one that I've raised earlier this week with our chief building official because it wasn't noted in the draft report prepared by a previous planner. So one of the notes from our CBO that he's going to investigate before he issues the permit for the addition is whether or not they're increasing the number of bedrooms. So the question to the owner is, are you removing a bedroom to move it to this location, thus not requiring an increase in the septic size? Because you're not physically increasing the number of bedrooms because the septic is based on number of bedrooms. In the case where there is an increase in bedrooms, we're going to evaluate the need, the size of the septic, the need for replacement against the official plan policies, the Muskrat Lake policies and the like. So at this point, we've done no nitrate assessment, but we're confident that any mitigation measures could be implemented as part of the building permit process.
Yes. Any further? Yes, Councillor Tabbert.
Now, I'm very poor at distances, but when I look at the map, I know that it's 15 meters from the river or from Muskrat Lake, but to the right, can you bring the map up, please?
To the what, sorry? Yeah.
Well, when I look at this to the right,
Yeah.
it shows like a little river going in.
Oh, allow me one quick second
See
here.
that little river coming in there? And for me, that's what I see.
Well, let's bring this up here.
Right. This is the one we're talking about.
Yes, that's correct.
So there's a little waterway coming in there too. So I'm wondering if that's been taken into consideration or it looks like water to me. Maybe it's not.
I would say that it is unlikely to be water. We're not identifying it as an intermittent or a
Oh,
permanent
okay,
stream.
okay. It looks like it might be a shadow.
Yes. So that
Okay.
the question for the public watching, we're looking at the sketch here and what Councillor Tabbert has noted that question whether or not there's a stream running along the south side of the home where the addition is going to go, and we're confirming that there's no stream or water course there. Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, that was my concern too, was the adequacy of the present septic system. And I think council, this committee is confident that that will be addressed before any permits are issued. Okay, with that, I would call for a vote on this application. All those in favor? And it is unanimous again. Thank you. Moving on to another minor variance application, 4.4. There's a recommendation which will be read as a motion. Move that the Committee of Adjustment approve a minor variance application for the property described as Westmeath Concession East Front C, part of Lot 3, 877 Lacroix Bay Road, and Lot 4, Lacroix Bay Road, granting relief from Section 3.32C of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw number 24-1-1655 to reduce the minimum setback from an inactive disposal site, which is a landfill, to 385 meters to allow for the construction of a dwelling in the future. Could we have the rationale for this application, please? I'll move her. Could I have some, Councillor Olmsted did move it. Thank you, Clerk Miller.
Great, thanks so much. So the present application is ultimately to reduce the setback established in the zoning bylaw from an inactive waste disposal site. And the first question will be, well, first question from the public or for the committee members is, where was this landfill? So the property in question are these two lots here. They're actually what we would call back lots to the Ottawa River, that front on Lacqua Bay Road. These would be the waterfront lots that front on the water. And these would be two back lots. These back lots range in size between 0.5 and 0.45 acres. So they were created a short while ago, because today now we typically require 2.5 acres if you don't do a study. The property in question is where the inactive waste disposal site is to the south of the subject lands. And I recall when this lot was severed, if you could look at it to the south, this lot was severed on the sketch, that this similar study was done. And I remember dealing with the previous owner to submit that study, which was again received by the committee to create this lot down here. It was a Mr. Gervais. The inactive waste disposal site is to the south of that yet. It's about 380 meters away from the subject properties. Subject properties are here, waste disposal sites somewhere here. And these waste disposal sites kind of existed a little bit here and there throughout our community. And they were kind of, because of the limitations on driving distances and the like, we used these things kind of just propped up and were sort of household waste that were being brought to these sites. In any case, it's identified by the Ministry of the Environment. So the province of Ontario has identified this as an inactive waste disposal site, which then is identified in the county official plan, which is then identified in our zoning bylaw. So a little bit of a hierarchy on how these things come about. So the proponent who owns these lands, their names are Linda Ollie and Jennifer Thomas. They're looking to sell these properties for development. And ultimately, this was one of the constraints that was identified when they engaged with us. At the present time, there's no proposed dwelling, but there will be in the future, and they're trying to deal with this one constraint beforehand. So I'll skip to page 2 of the report. So just to identify in the official plan of the County of Renfrew, which applies to us, development proposals within 500 meters of the closed landfill site require an assessment. So what they're trying to determine whether or not the groundwater will impact future serviceability, water serviceability, the well of the subject lands. The findings that we received from the assessment prepared by a professional consulting firm shows that the migration of the landfill waste is towards the south, not towards the north where these properties are. So there's no anticipated adverse impacts from the future wells on the subject lands as a result of the inactive waste disposal site. So that's really what we are seeking to achieve from that assessment, which has been submitted, reviewed, and approved. So I'll move right to the 4 tests because staff are supportive of the application. So the general intent of the official plan supports limited residential development. The environmental public health risks are addressed because of the completion of that assessment. And the proposed setback reduction aligns with the objectives of maintaining a safe, compatible residential properties. The intent of the zoning bylaws is maintained. It protects the sensitive land uses, and the assessment concluded negative impacts from landfill gas or groundwater contaminations are not anticipated on the subject lands. Thirdly, the variance is minor. So again, no adverse impacts are to be created to be established for the development of these 2 lots, and there'll be no significant impacts on surrounding areas. And the 4th test with respect to appropriate development or use of the land, again, staff are finding that it is desirable to support the reduction in the setback to facilitate the future development of these properties, which are existing lots of record. So staff are supportive and glad to answer any questions that we can. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I would ask Catherine Curry on behalf of the applicant, do you have a comment? Oh, 4.7. Okay, but I can still ask. All right. Any comments from council? Mr. Nicholson.
Can't help myself. Who was responsible to do the survey on the landfill? Was that the proponent of the previous severance?
For the present application, the owner of the 2 properties in question is the one who commissioned and paid for the studies.
And does the township have any responsibility for that landfill beyond the fact that it's recognized in our zoning?
The short answer, without significant investigation, is the inactive waste disposal site is on private property. It is not held by the Township of Whitewater Region, so therefore we'd have no obligations to it. In the case where we do have obligations in our inactive waste disposal sites, Westmeath, Ross, for those examples, we do a lot of monitoring, we do a lot of reporting as established by the Ministry of the Environment. Because we're not doing that here, I would say we have no obligation to the said inactive waste disposal site. Whether the current owner has an obligation to do that, I'm uncertain.
But that's between them and the ministry.
That's correct.
Good. Good. Second question, Chair, if I could.
Yes.
The two lots that exist, they were obviously created much earlier because of the sizes. My understanding that any development on lots of those sizes that require water and a sewage system is going to require some pretty big studies. Is that correct?
So this is a question that we've pondered as staff for the last couple of years. So what is the requirement to issue a permit on an undersized lot? Prior to sort of 2023, 2024, we've always accepted that we would issue a permit for a dwelling on private services, well and septic, because it's an existing lot of record. What we're finding, because we're asking for these studies more and more, and the 2.5 acres has been established in the official plan, is that it is difficult to comply with nitrate requirements at property boundaries for properties that are less than an acre in size. So there's a complexity there. Do we have the authority to ask presently for an assessment for a building permit? No, we don't really have the authority. Would it be good practice? It would probably be good practice. So, what we will be seeking from the members of council in the subject to human staffing resources to support reports to council on this item is through our CBO and together with our planner is we're looking to establish a development guideline for these undersized lots to support our CBO in the issuance of building permits for undersized lots. Now, there are some that exist in our community that are less than an acre, or there's not a great number of them, but we will be seeking out from council some direction to develop a guideline to support, to require an assessment for the development of vacant undersized lots. We're not quite there yet, but yeah.
The only reason I bring it up, Chair, is that I just from the staffing perspective, how do we find our way through this kind of scenario? And the CEO has talked about that already, but from the developer's perspective, they're investing money to make these marketable. When someone buys them and tries to consider the implications of putting a septic system in there so it doesn't contaminate their well or their neighbor's well, it's going to impact on the value of the property. And it would be great if I just want to, from a proponent's perspective, I want them to go into this with their eyes wide open before they invest a huge number of dollars in something like that. So not necessarily to do with approving or denying this specific request, but it talks about how do we clean up these situations from before. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Any other comments from council members? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? The motion is unanimously carried. Recommendation 4.5 is an application for consent. And the recommendation will be read as a motion that the Committee of Adjustment for Township Whitewater Region approve a consent application file D-10-248 for the property described as Westmeath Concession A, east of Muskrat Lake, part of Lot 1773 Red Wing Trail, subject to the conditions outlined in this report. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert. And the rationale, please, Mr. Burton.
Yeah, thanks so much. So the property in question, as we've noted, is identified as a 73 Red Wing Trail or part of lot 17, West Meath Concession A, East Muskrat Lake. The property, as shown here, which is Red Wing Trail, is accessed from Beatty's Trail. The property fronts on the north side of Muskrat Lake, close to where the channel of the Muskrat River connects to Muskrat Lake. And Beatty's Trail connects back, I believe, to, is it McGonigal? McGonigal, I believe, which is then a municipally maintained road. So there are, just to describe the area here, there's a variety of, there's a few private roads that run from McGonigal to the waterfront of Muskrat Lake in this area. Other ones include, I think Dogwood was one of them I was looking at recently. So the application is submitted by Sheldon Reiki on behalf of Julie and Tricia Trulove. And the proposal in this case is for a lot addition. The lot addition ultimately is to take a small portion of land from what we'll call the retained parcel and add it to the enlarged parcel. So the resulting lots would each have approximately 0.27 and 0.29 of a hectare. So ultimately, we're taking an extremely undersized lot and increasing the size to be more relative to support the existing use. The neighboring lot, which is owned by Paul Jameson, is known as 55 Red Wing Trail. So if I just scroll down to this map, fortunately the addresses are not shown there, but what you could see here on the sketch, the severed parcel, the red one, will be added to the blue one. It's currently part of the green one, and they're adding it to the blue one as part of the application. It kind of has a natural division here where there's kind of a bit of a bay in the lake here. So the PPS generally supports development and lot adjustments on rural lands that support development feasibility. The official plan designates the property as waterfront exception 2. Exception 2 is specific to Muskrat Lake and its at capacity designations and development restrictions. The waterfront designation supports limited low density residential development. And again, in this case, there's no proposed buildings, but just modifying lot configurations. The lot addition, as it pertains to the zoning bylaw, does not create a new lot. It does not alter the use of land and provides a configuration that is compliant with our zoning setbacks. So moving these lot lines around will not interfere with any minimum setbacks. The planning rationale here, the plan application seeks to expand an undersized lot while maintaining a reasonably sized retained parcel, resulting in an appropriate and functional lot configuration. So there's a list of 5 conditions. Number 1 and 2, that hard copies and digital copies or digital copies of the survey be submitted to the township and also to the county of Renfrew. Number 3 speaks to, prior to the issuance of certificate of consent, the owner shall ensure that any previous applications that require cancellation are approved. So where there was a severance previously, in some instances you have to cancel it. So what we would require is the lawyer to confirm whether or not that's required, and if so, they would go ahead with the submission of cancellation. And secondly, that the solicitor undertake to consolidate the two pins. So that's pin red and pin blue to formalize the lot addition so they don't remain separate properties. Number 4, that any outstanding taxes be paid, and 5, that the applicant provide to the secretary a draft transfer deed of land. So pretty generic conditions, and staff are supportive of the application. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Comments from council? Any comments? I'd just like to make one comment that Mr. Burton referred to earlier, and you'll see we have a new condition that will be in all of our applications. This condition was suggested by Treasurer McGonigal as part of his strategy to to reduce outstanding property taxes. And so this is probably the only second meeting where this condition has been included, and I think this is a good idea. Having said that, I didn't see any other comments. All those in favor of the motion, please signify. And it is again, Madam Clerk, unanimous. Okay. Before I read the application for 4.6, I'm sorry, the clerk will note that Councillor Olmsted has left his seat and is sitting in the gallery. Okay, this recommendation will be read as a motion that the Committee of Adjustment Township Whitewater Region approve a consent file application file number D-10-264 for the property described as lots 511 to 514, 529 to 531, 546 to 548, and part of lot 515, Plan 65, and part of Block G on Plan 86, Morton Street, subject to the conditions outlined in this report. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Olmsted. I'm sorry, it has been moved by Councillor Tabbert. And the rationale, please.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'll just skip over to the sketch. Interesting enough, the application, it came to Committee of Adjustment. It's noted here, August 18th, 2022. And the application actually lapsed. So you only have so much time to fulfill your conditions. And in the present case, the conditions were not met. But what's interesting is in July 2022, I became CAO. So I still process this application as a CAO planner. And here I am, a few years later, still doing the same thing. Interesting. So the application is filed by Chris Olmsted. Property description is a variety of lots on Plan 65. Plan 65 is like the original plan for the village of Cobden, and Plan 86 would have been approved subsequent to that for a couple of subdivisions in there. The application being proposed is to do a lot addition, and I will scroll down here to the sketch. Subject lands are fronting on Morton Street, so it's this property here that is kind of L-shaped, and the owner applicant also owns the adjacent lands here, and they're looking to sever off a piece around here to move it to the next side. So Morton Street is access. I believe that's Ross Street that comes in off of Main Street. So Ross, Morton, and you're at the property. So as I've noted, the sketch here shows the severed parcel in red to be added to the parcel in blue and the retained parcel in green. So the lands to be added to front on Main Street, the lands in blue, and they contain an existing commercial building, Olmsted's Home Hardware, a storage facility. I say storage facility, storage accessory to the commercial business, several accessory structures and areas used for outdoor storage. Subject to the approval of the committee, all parcels will be appropriately sized to accommodate municipal water and sewage services. So the retained parcel in green will be appropriately sized for future development. Continuing here, so the PPS and County OP support development within our village communities with mixed use development directed towards these rural centers. The application supports the intent of enlarging a commercial lot in Cobden, potentially enhancing local economic function within a designated growth area. So these villages are areas designated by the province and county as our growth areas. So I'll skip right down to the planning rationale. So the application represents a minor adjustment that supports the ongoing functional and viability of the commercial property within a designated settlement area. So again, resubmission, it was approved back in 2002. And I'll read through the conditions. I'm noting that there are 7 conditions. There's a reoccurrence of condition 3 into number 5. So what I'm going to recommend to the committee that we remove condition 3 so that it's not duplicated in condition 5. So I'm going to read through it as recommended with that change. So I'm going to read through 1, 2, and go right over to number 4, and how, subject to committee's approval, that'll be reflected in the notice of decision to the applicant. We will not list 7 conditions. If the committee approves it, it will be 6 conditions. So the conditions 1 and 2, that the survey be submitted to the township and the county of Renfrew, conditions 1 and 2. Condition 3, but noted as 4 in the report, that the owner provide a wildland fire assessment mitigation plan or form. So they submit this form to the township. So that severed property, which is appears to be a bit wooded here on this sketch, that they submit a form. The wildland fire assessment form pertains primarily to buildings. There should be no real issue to comply with that. Just an extra little form to fill out. Number 5, that prior to the issuance of the certificate, the owner shall, A here is the duplication of number 3, ensure that necessary applications of deeming bylaw are approved to comply with the Planning Act. So a deeming bylaw, similar to a cancellation of a severance, takes the lands out of the plan of subdivision to allow them to be divided and transferred and added to the adjacent lands, and provide the solicitor undertake and address to the Secretary Treasurer the consolidation of the 2 pins. So again, same condition as the last one. 6, that the owner retained of the retained large parcels shall pay for all outstanding taxes, and the owner provide the approval authority a transfer deed of land. So staff are supportive of this reapplication. Glad to answer any questions that there may be.
Thanks, Mr. Burke. Now I'm going to ask for direction from Clerk Miller. Do we need to amend this motion because of the suggested change from Mr. Burke?
Yes, let's do that. Let's just amend it to remove, I can't remember what number
Condition
it was.
3.
Condition 3, just if we can just we can get a friendly amendment just to remove it. And then that way it's reflected in the minutes that that's happened.
Thank you for that information. As mover, are you willing for this amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'll ask the applicant if you have any comments. Mr. Olmsted. Thank you. Council members, any comments? Mr. Mayor.
I have a list. No, I only have one that I want to bring up. And it's more for the CEO, the zoning. The 2 properties, I can't remember the colors, red and green are zoned rural, blue is zoned commercial. And when we add red to blue, does it adopt the blue zoning, or does that require a zoning amendment if that was something that proponent wanted in the future?
I'm a bit, there may have been an oversight in my review of the report from Planner Pisklavich. If you'll allow me just a second to go look at the zoning bylaw to verify the true zoning categories. I say that because it's in the village of Cobden, it is unlikely that the property is zoned rural. So if you'll allow me through you, the chair, to just go verify that very quickly to answer the question.
Yes, certainly do that. We will wait.
Thank you so much. It will only take a minute. So to answer the second part of your question, well, to clarify the zoning, I'll verify that, but it does not automatically merge into a new zone. An application would need to be filed to change the zone from rural to the commercial zoning. But so if I just go verify this real quick, oh, it is rural. Oh, he was correct. Excuse me. So the interesting enough, yeah, the report is correct. The property is in a rural zone. This is in a general commercial zone. This is the business. This is the vacant property. So the applicant should be applying for zoning if he wishes to use this for the purposes of general commercial. In fact, it probably would be advisable from myself as the planner CAO that we include that as a condition of approval, that the applicant file an amendment to the zoning bylaw. So we went from 7 conditions down to 6, and might I recommend we go back to 7 to require the owner to apply for a zoning amendment to change the rural zoning of the severed property from rural to general commercial. So if you could, through you, the chair, maybe we solicit the members of the committee or feedback from the owner if there's any appetite to do that as a condition. I'm not sure.
Before you answer that question, can I ask another
Okay, yes, certainly, go ahead.
related to that? The zoning amendment requires council, not committee of adjustment.
That's correct, yes.
Could I amend, assuming the proponent is in support of that approach? Could committee of adjustment just make the recommendation to council? Does it need to go back into a separate application?
It has to go back, as far as I'm concerned, into a separate application. Again, as the CAO, I'm not extremely familiar with the number of changes the provincial government has made to the planner. You'd have to go back to the public and notify and do the whole
Right,
public process,
public
public
process.
meeting. So I would say yes, you'd be required to go back to council.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to again go back to our mover for a friendly amendment to add that the condition, which would be number 7 again, that Mr. Burton suggested.
I agree.
Okay. Now, Madam Clerk, do you have that? You do? Okay. Because we've made changes, I'm going to ask the applicant if has any comments.
Yes, thank you. Chris Olmsted, owner of Olmsted's Home Hardware and the subject lands. If you could, you could just go back to the colored, the red, green, and so the reason we are doing the severance and lot addition as you see it, currently the green and red parcel is one parcel being at, and the blue parcel is the commercial. The reason why we're not doing the red and green in the entirety is because to the right of the green is a residential property. And we didn't want to add commercial beside the residential property. So that's the reason why you see it split in two and just the red is being added to the commercial. And if you see, there's a little bit of a jut out in the green property. It's not square. So the property beside actually on the road front comes in a bit in front of the green property. So we thought it'd be suitable to the township. If in future that lot ever becomes developed, I doubt it I ever will, but we didn't want to place a commercial unit in behind, partially in behind somebody's house and property. So I just want to explain the reason why we're doing it this way.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
While you're still up there, I have a question that you
Yeah.
may want to address. If I may, if there's nothing else here. I noticed from this photo that there doesn't seem to be a developed street in front of the retained property, the green lot. So in the future, if that lot were to be developed, what sort of restrictions would the owner need to have in order to be on a developed street? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so the township's zoning bylaw establishes that you are required to have frontage on a public or private road to allow for the use of a dwelling. So again, I'm the sketch that is presented here that is utilizing the County of Renfrew GIS has some inaccuracies.
Oh, okay.
So by this sketch, I cannot confirm if Morton continues to the front of this property, but in the case where it would not, then we'd have to formalize an extension of that road. The owner would have to formalize an extension of that road to get proper frontage. I think we've discussed that with the owner before.
Okay, everybody's fine with that? Okay, thank you. If that is all, then I would call for the vote. All those in favor is approved unanimously. And we can note that Councilor Olmsted has resumed his seat at the table. Okay. Okay, application 4.7. This recommendation will be read to you as a motion that the Committee of Adjustment Township Whitewater Region approve the consent applications file numbers D-10-265 and D-10-266 for the property described as Westmeath concession, North Front A, part of Lot 10, Hyla Road, subject to the conditions outlined on this report. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Olmsted. And if I could ask the CAO to provide the rationale for this motion.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. And we do have the applicant, Catherine Curry from JP2G joining us virtually here. So the application is filed by JP2G on behalf of Pierre Paré for that property fronting on Hyla Road. I'll just go to the sketch, provide a little bit of detail on the subject lands and just give you guys a bit of an update here. So Hyla Road is a property that connects to Zion Line. It continues all the way to Beachburg Road and connects to Old Mill Bridge Road as well, back to Westmeath Road. So it's this section of Hyla Road is I think generally quite busy as a thoroughfare from Westmeath Road to Beachburg Road. The one thing to note here before we get into the report is there's a water course that traverses the property, and I'm showing it to you with my mouse, and that is why these lots are oddly shaped at their back property line. It actually follows the natural water course. And what we've learned is in the last number of months is this water course is a navigable waterway. Navigable waterways, I believe it's defined in some type of act or legislation. And what that does, it actually creates natural consents, natural severances. So this property, if I scroll back up here, it's this one here. It actually fronts on Westmeath Road, and it also fronts on Hyla Road. What's happening here is that when we first circulated the application, it had come to our attention that there's a natural severance here because of the waterway. So the shape of the lots has changed slightly. And we've got that confirmed from the surveyor's office of that natural navigable waterway. So what we have before us is two applications, one for a property of 2.27 hectares and another for 2.47 hectares. And these are relatively large properties. And one of the reasons to make them large like this is to just conform with the natural setting, but also because you're greater than 1 hectare, then you could omit certain assessments and certain studies. So I'm certain that the application had considered that when they applied. So with respect to the PPS, we are in a rural area, and it supports a development that builds on rural characters and rural amenities. Here we're kind of in a rural area, bit of a waterfront property, wooded area, and would utilize those amenities assets for development. In the county official plan, it's in the rural designation, and generally the properties are compatible. The proposed development is compatible with the rural landscape and can be sustained by rural service levels, being water, well, and existing hydro and the like. One of the items that we're first discussing today is the minimum distance separation, or MDS. So MDS pertains to minimum setbacks between barns or livestock facilities, as we'd call them. So the minimum distance separation between a sensitive land use, a home, and a barn or livestock facility. And what happens is there is a barn located across the road. And in the calculation of this barn, it was determined that the minimum separation distance between the dwelling and the said barn was 81 meters. And we'll be able to comply with that. And that, when I say comply with that, is these new lots can be developed with a home, which is what we're trying to achieve here. The said barn is across the road. If anybody's familiar with Whitewater bison, that would be the said property. Continuing, so the property is located in an area where there are significant woodlands. The official plan has some compromise in which where there's limited development. So basically, if you do 3 or less lots, you do not have to do an assessment against the significant woodlands. The property has significant natural hazards of wildland fire. So again, a condition is that the form be filled out and submitted to the township. If I continue into the land division policies, again, this is the first sort of 2 lots from the subject lands. It allows for up to 3 lots to be severed from the original holding. So we're in good shape there. Zoning bylaw establishes the properties in this rural zone, speaks about minimum separation distances and separation distance from water bodies. So in this case, the minimum water setback will be 30 meters. That'll need to be complied with for future dwellings. If the purchasers of these lots decide to reduce that setback, well, then they would be into a variance or an amendment and require some study. So we haven't required an environmental impact for the water course at this point in time, but any future development that reduces that 30-meter setback will necessitate one. So staff are supportive of the application, and we've listed our conditions as 5. The one thing I didn't note is that these lands are identified as having a sort of karst topography. So is committee familiar with karst topography? Somewhat, a little bit. Karst topography is sort of an area within the former Westmeath Township, which has a type of topography, sort of limestone, dolomite, maybe a type of bedrock, if you would call it that. That is identified as a karst, and what that is ultimately there's potential for unstable grounds. So a karst assessment is pretty basic. You pay a bit of money to our building department, and they go inspect a few holes on your property. You dig down 1 meter. Usually you rent an excavator, dig 3 holes where the house is going to go. The CBO goes and inspects. Okay, no karst, and then we move on. So it's not extremely complex, but there's a bit of a process to it. So the conditions, I'll go through them now. 1 and 2 is with respect to the survey to the township and county. Third one is that the owner obtain and passes a karst inspection, which I just spoke about. 4th, that they pay all outstanding taxes. And 5, that they provide a transfer deed of land. So pretty straightforward conditions, and staff are supportive of the application. Thanks so much.
If I may interject here, just a bit of clarification. The MDSI report, there is no barn. I believe there was a barn. It fell down. There's still remnants of a barn, but and a foundation. But I don't believe there is actually a barn, and the report seems to suggest no existing livestock barn. So we're good. Is that true?
It's noted in the report. Yeah. Sorry, apologies. Yeah. So the whether the barn stands or not, I am uncertain. I don't know if it still stands. What happens with these MDS? I see Catherine maybe lifting her hand.
Yes.
Let's go to the applicant
Yes.
through you, the chair.
Sorry.
Okay. I just, I wasn't asking, I just wanted clarification, but I will go to the applicant, and perhaps as part of what you're planning to say, you could clarify that for us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair.
Okay.
You've just froze on our screen. Oh, there you are now. You're clear now. You're
Hold
good.
on. My internet's a little questionable. I'm just going to turn off my video. Okay. So the MDS form was filled out by the property owner, and the bison are actually at the other end of the property, down by Zion Line. They are not using the barn. I'm not currently sure of the status of whether it's still standing, but
Okay.
when they filled out the form, the barn was not in use or capable. They just had 6 bison in the field.
Perfect. Now, any other comments, Catherine, with this, with respect to this application?
Nope, Mr. Burton covered it well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then I'll come to council members. Yes, Councillor Tappert.
A follow-up on your concern there, or your statement. So even though there's no barn, there is a foundation for a barn, so maybe that's why he has to do that, because you can actually, can you build the barn up even with the foundation there? Or do you have to
So.
do something different?
I mean, what I'll explain is, and support me, Catherine, because I was not here at the front end of this application, but likely what happens is we identify that there's a barn-like structure to the applicant, which in this case would be JP2G. And we say, go and get the MDS information. So in this case, they go fill out a form, and then we take that form. It tells you how many livestock there is. In this case, they identified, I think it was like 6 bison or something to that sort. In any case, that's filled out by the owner of the barn. So they've alleged that there's a barn there, and or maybe a future livestock building or something of that nature, which has established a minimum setback. It's not onerous in this application. We will comply with it. So I think we're safe to proceed with that. In the case where there was question of whether or not a livestock facility, an old barn, could habitate animals, we could, through the guidelines, have our CBO attend the site to confirm or deny the information. We've not done that here because it doesn't really impact the applications. But in the case where we had to, we've done it before. Thanks.
Any other comments from council? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I wanted to see if we could confirm the zoning of the property across the road where the bison are. Is that all ag, including the forested area?
Yeah, if you'll allow me just a moment to pull up the schedule in our zoning bylaw, and I could zoom into it. I believe that section of Zion Line has a lot of agricultural zones, but knowing me, I opened the wrong one.
Just as it's loading.
Yeah, it is zoned agriculture. I could see it from this far out.
Agriculture, okay. So just if the owner of those properties wanted to build a barn to service, to make use of his agricultural properties, does the creation of these 3 lots across the road impact that? Or does he have some kind of pre-existing?
So there's definitely an impact, yes. Not so much the lots, but the location of the future houses. What the MDS program is, it's a provincial portal you go into and you put in numbers and it gives you the setbacks. It recognizes, it benefits the agricultural livestock owner. So it, if you're expanding the livestock facility, there are some, it generally benefits the farmer, if you will. But yeah, the creation of these lots and their future dwelling will have an impact on livestock facilities in the area, without a doubt. Yeah.
But, and I recognize there's already a number of lots already approved and built, occupied by people. These 3 lots aren't going to significantly make a difference to the impact that he may have on his future agricultural use. But I just wanted to recognize it for the record. He would then be constrained by whatever MDS set as the conditions for any future development on the ag side.
Yeah, so when I say it benefits the farmer, if we did the opposite calculation here of building a new barn the same size, it might not be 81 meters, it might be less, benefiting the farmer.
Perfect. Okay, good.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, this division of our rural area as a whole, not ag, like rural area as a whole, impacts future farms, future livestock facilities and the like. So as we create these lots, it has an incremental impact on on adjacent lands for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before I call for the vote? If not, all those in favor? It has passed unanimously. Okay. We have done already, of course, we've approved 4.8, so we're moving down to 4.9. And again, we have a recommendation that will be read as a motion. Be it moved that the Committee of Adjustment approve the recreational vehicle variance submitted for the property described as 663 Hydro Bay Road, concession 1, part lot 56, RP 1958, part of lot 12. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert. And the rationale for this, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't understand. Okay, certainly.
Catherine, you can, if you don't want to be on, we're done. So if you want to leave at this point, you can. Okay, so Gary Ransom owns the property at 663 Hydro Bay Road. They submitted a application for a recreational vehicle at this address. Currently, the address has a existing dwelling on the lot, so they're asking for the variance to allow use of a trailer with the existing cottage. The recreation vehicle is a fully licensed trailer and will meet with all the minimum setbacks. The concerning lot is a treed lot and its approximate size is 65 by 311, which is approximately 6.66 acres. The trailer is located in waterfront vicinity, and their use for it is for occasional uses during visits with friends and family, for some additional sleeping facilities. Their plan is to use the water and sewage that's already there in the existing cottage. The recreational vehicle bylaw only permits recreational vehicles on vacant properties to provide alternatives for waterfront properties located within the floodplain, and also vacant rural properties to provide fairness to residents. While the intent and purpose of the recreational vehicle license and bylaw is noted above, staff do understand that there will be occasional requests for lots with additional cottage or with that already have cottages on the property. The variance is an option for them to be able to use the trailer. Every variance license should be examined on its own merits. The proposed variance is intended to provide occasional use for additional sleeping facilities. The recreational vehicle will comply with minimum yard setbacks, like I said, and applicable zonings. And based on the above, we believe it has minimum impact on adjacent uses and protect against impacts of the environment, as well as prevent the use of external gas generators. So we've seen these before, and we'll probably see a lot more of them now that we've changed the zoning bylaw to remove the 10-day usage. So yeah, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions from council? I have just one for clarification. The road, is that a private road? Does this mean it constitutes two different lots? And if it does, why do we need to concern ourselves with this?
I don't believe it's two separate lots. It's 663 Hydro Bay Road. Oh, there. The CAO
I just
will bring it
looking
up,
at.
yeah. When I looked on the GIS, it was not 2 lots, it was 1 lot.
Okay. And yes, there may have been changes since this original map because there's another little lot, it seems, that would have access to the law. It's a little bit confusing, but I'm sure that
Yeah, I think I mean, in any case, both of the structures, the existing, both of the trailers are located on the west side of the road, so they're not they're not separated by the road.
no, I know that part. I'm just wondering if there are indeed 2 separate lots, then they would be allowed to have a trailer, one trailer, not 2, on the lot if it was separate without even, they would just need a permit.
The answer is based on the information at our disposal, we're showing it as one property.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
It is 1 roll number, not 2, so it is 1 lot.
Okay. Okay. So things have been straightened out since this map was done. I'm happy with that. Anything else? Is there a timeline, if I might ask, when the motorhome needs to be removed?
So with discussions with the owner, they informed me that the motorhome does not get used. It's just there for storage, and they did, I believe it was July or early August that they're going to remove it.
Okay. Fair enough. With that, all those in favor of the motion? Again, passed unanimously. Okay, now that concludes the applications. And so item number 5 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And so could I have a mover, please, to approve the minutes? Moved by Councillor Olmsted, and the recommendation is that the Committee of Adjustment approve the April 17, 2025 minutes. All those in favor? Approved. And I declare this meeting adjourned. Make sure you